My name is Benjamin Opokwaye. I'm a Senior Program Officer with Parliamentary Network Africa. In this training, we are going to basically look at 3 emerging issues. And so we'll look at the legal issues that accompany the digital age. What are some of the new legal tussles that we find within this digital age? What are some emerging technologies that even as journalists we need to know about, and how do we use them? How do we prepare ourselves for them? We'd also look at conflict and security reporting, how we can report on these sensitive issues, even in an atmosphere of conflicts and in an atmosphere of instability. We'll look at the very interesting topic of open government partnership, as you are aware, which is an interesting area and an area where governments, have become very interested in. We'll look at what it means. We'll look at open parliaments generally, and what role we can play as journalists also in promoting open parliaments. And then finally, we will end with climate change. We all know about the increasing interest with climate change. So what are some of the emerging issues, or basically, what are the emerging legal challenges in the digital age? You bear with me that there are a lot of interesting things, interesting technologies that are emerging in this century, and it has its own, or they come with their own challenges. They come with their own positives, of course. They come with their own benefits. And so even as we are happily using them, even as we are happily welcoming them within our society, there are some challenges that they also come with. And some of these challenges have been the challenge of data privacy and protection. All the time we sign up to use apps, applications, we sign up to use softwares, even sometimes buying buying online, you need to provide some details, some personal details, personal information.
Certains détails, des informations.
You need to provide personal information and all of that. Ask yourself, how are these information you provide
Comment est-ce
stored?
que ces informations sont stockées? Comment
How are they processed?
est-ce qu'ils
It is
sont
something that you need to
stockés?
address your mind to, because a
Quelque
lot of the
chose
data
à se poser parce que beaucoup
have
de
been
ces données
collected by
ont été
media
collectées
organizations,
par des
by
organisations médiatiques,
technology companies,
par
by
des entreprises
advertising
technologiques,
companies, marketing companies, and all of that.
et marketing.
Massive information, large data
Cette même
across board
information
are being collected.
partout
How are
a
they
été.
storing, and how safe
Comment est-ce qu'elle est
are
donc
our
stockée
data
et
with
quelle est donc
these
la sécurité
companies
de nos
who
données?
use or who collect
Comment
our
ce sera
data?
utilisé?
And so
Qui a
there is
collecté
always the
ces
legal
informations?
issue of
Il y a toujours ce problème légal là
the balance between,
d'équilibre
we
entre
having to use innovation,
le
we
fait
welcoming
d'utiliser
innovation,
l'innovation,
and
de
how
embrasser
our data
l'innovation.
is also
Comment est-ce
safeguarded.
que nos données
This
sont
is
également
a
sauvegardées?
legal challenge that we find ourselves when it
Problème légal
comes to
auquel nous
data
faisons
privacy and
face
protection.
lorsqu'il en vient
How do we balance
à l'aspect
innovation?
privé
Yes,
des
we need to use
équilibre
innovation.
avec
We need to use
l'innovation.
the new
C'est
tools,
vrai,
the
on doit
new
utiliser l'innovation,
technologies, and
on
all
doit
of that.
utiliser de nouveaux outils,
But
de
how
nouvelles
do we also
technologies, tout
ensure
cela.
that
Mais
our
comment nous
data is
rassurons-nous que nos données soient
or we
préservées,
have that privacy? That is one challenge.
que nous ayons
Again,
cet aspect privé-là?
now we
Encore,
have artificial intelligence, we have automation, and
grâce
all
à
of that.
l'intelligence artificielle, nous avons l'automatisation.
And you can trust that these artificial intelligence are on the high rise, and so they are going to
Cette intelligence artificielle est de plus en plus
we
utilisée.
should always look forward to I
Donc,
mean,
vous devez
a number
toujours,
of them.
il y a toujours de nouvelles qui sont créées. Donc, vous devez les rechercher et les utiliser.
And in all of these, is the issue of who owns the data, who owns the copyright data, right? Online. And for instance, if you use an artificial intelligence to create content, if you use an artificial intelligence to create anything that you use, who becomes the sole owner of that content? Is it the owner of the tool, or is it the creator, right? So this has also become one of the legal issues that, as artificial intelligence is becoming very popular in whatever we do in our society, in the work that we do, this has become a legal challenge also in there. Again, the legal challenge of digital intellectual property, right? Online, the information we have or we get online, the content we produce online, who owns them? Who becomes the property owner? Let me put it that way, right? And so you realize that people would use or would create a lot of information, put it out there, and people can reuse and reuse and recreate. But then who can we trace the ownership to? So this has also become an issue, and it always generates some legal tussles when people now decide to battle in court and about regarding whether I am the owner of this content, I'm the owner of this digital property and all of that. And then finally, social media. We all know about social media. We all know about the Facebooks, the Twitter, and all of that. These are platforms that helps us to connect, to network, and to even sell or market or do all the things that we want to use them for. But again, the legal issues now comes when there is a challenge of balancing what free speech means, and then the need to prevent hate speech, for instance, and the need to prevent misinformation, for instance, and the need to prevent cyberbullying. You would attest to the fact that these platforms are becoming popular platforms for cyberbullying, misinformation, and hate speech. So whilst these social media platforms are very useful for us in our businesses, in our reporting, in our research, and all of that, how do we also mitigate these issues and ensure that we tame them, ensure that it doesn't get out of hands? So these are some of the emerging legal challenges that associate the digital age, which as journalists, as reporters, we need to be aware of them and know how we can handle them. And so whilst we have had the understanding of these legal issues, of course, we need to also understand the impact of even fake news, misinformation, and media regulation. What impact do they have, right, on our society at the moment? And one of them, you would have the impact of media regulation, because there is increasing automation, increasing AI, increasing technological advancements. There is also the debates around there's also the debates of how do we regulate the space? How do we check fake news? How do we check misinformation, right? Because once these tools or these technologies are in abundance, it means people can use them for good, but again, they can also use them for bad. So how do we regulate them to curb the dissemination of false information? It is something that we need to address our minds to. Again, also the challenge of even defining boundaries, right? So what constitutes fake news? What is misinformation, right? How I may interpret one information may be different from how another person interprets it. I may see an information to be useful. Someone may see it to be fake news, right? How do we assure ourselves that this information we are using for our reporting is a genuine information, is credible information, it's coming from the right source, right? and even what we are putting out there. How do we verify to ascertain, to be sure that it is not fake news or we are not misinforming the public? This is something, this is one of the impacts that this technological advancement, these emerging issues have on our work and on our society. Again, there is also the issue about who is responsible for regulating the platforms that these information are spread on, right? So the Facebook, the Twitter, and all of that, should it be governments regulating these platforms, or should it be the owners of the platforms who will now bear the burden of regulating these platforms to curb misinformation? So these are some of the impacts that fake news and misinformation can bring about, and some of the debates that we need to also understand for the sake of the work that we do. The impact of freedom of expression, right? All these AI issues, artificial intelligence, automation, social media, and all of that, they bring up the issue of censorship, right? So basically, the challenge of how to combat the fake news, right? And also how to draw the line between combating fake news or mitigating misinformation, and also holding people from airing their views or preventing people from exercising their freedom of speech, right? So there's always that critical line where governments need to draw, or institutions need to draw, or even organizations that are producing these need to draw between how do we censor the information that people put out there or people use? How do we draw the line between we not preventing them to put out information, to share their views, to air their voice and all of that? And so this has become one of the critical issues. And you would realize that for some countries, in their quest to prevent fake news, or to prevent the increase in the increase in hate speech and misinformation, they tend to create laws that ban people from exercising their freedom of speech, which sometimes can reduce or limit civic engagement, can reduce even our participation in governance in the countries or in the areas that we find ourselves. So this is very important for us to address our minds to. Having understood some of the legal or some of the emerging issues associated with technology and all of that, now let's look at some of the emerging technologies itself, right? And one of them is virtual and augmented reality. You know, there is this technology where you can actually put on some equipment or put on some vests or materials, and then you can find yourself in a new world, right? That is where you find yourself in a virtual world. It could be you playing game, it could be you doing anything, depending on the purpose of that technology, right? And recently, some of these have been upcoming. You can wear something and then it give you some game, like a game of a sorts. You are playing, you find yourself in that world, you are shooting and all of that. These are new technologies. And there are others that also help us to use in gaming. So you are playing game and all of that. And so for us as journalists, these are technologies that we need to also address our minds to. It helps us to even create stories, right? It helps to improve user experience, right? How do we, of course, it comes with its own investments. It comes with its own challenges, whether you are able to use them or whether you are able to afford them. If it's a media organization who wants to increase the experience for its followers or its users. Again, there's also 5G technology, We are gradually moving from 4G. Of course, it's already in here with us, but for Africa, sometimes it takes some time for us to have the full benefit of some of these technological advancements. And so, yes, 5G network helps faster browsing, it helps faster connectivity and all of that. And so these technologies that would enhance your work for you, your research, and even user experience when it comes to accessing websites or information and all of that. These are technologies that we need to understand how they can help our work. Again, automated content creation. We've gotten to a point, I don't want to say we are getting to a point, it's already here with us, where you may not need to necessarily create content on your own. There are a lot of AI tools, there are a lot of content generation tools that you can use to create content, and they make your work easier. But of course, also always bearing in mind that whilst you are using these tools, you need to know the audience you are serving. You need to know the people you are serving. And so usually you find people use these contents or these tools to generate the content, but they don't tailor them to suit their audience. Or let me say, they don't humanize these AI tools, because trust me, these tools are there to help us, but you may abuse them when you decide to use them and not use them well. When you decide to use them and not ensure that you are tailoring them to suit whoever is going to read, sometimes it can bring some disadvantages to the work that we are doing. And then also we have voice technology, where you can just speak to a device, you can speak to a machine, and then they will do something you ask them to do for, right? There are software, there are technologies that you can just ask them to play some song for you, play music for you, or do something, and all of that. Even with our phones, sometimes you can use your voice to open your phone. You can use your voice to command a software or something in your computer or your phone to do something for you. These are new technologies that we need to understand that, yes, they are here with us. And so we need to use them. We need to learn how to use them for our work. Once these technologies, these issues are also cropping up, then it also means that there is a change in media consumption, right? It means new tools initiate new conversations around what we are churning out and even around what people are consuming, right? So what are some of the changes in the consumption of the information or in consumption of the content that we put out there? You realize that now there are a lot of streaming services, whether music streaming, video streaming, and all of the other things. You can always easily access them, right? And so this is an area that may even be overtaking TV, our traditional TV content, or now having to sit before the TV before you can watch a video or something. You can just stream. I mean, even Facebook, you can stream, watch videos. There are streaming applications you can always use to stream, whether songs or videos and all of that. These are technologies, or these are new ways that people are consuming information. And for us journalists, we need to also understand them and know which medium we can use to create content or to share information for use. There is also podcasts. Podcasts, of course, it's a format that helps to tell your story, a format where you can share news, you can create news content, and publish news and all of that. It helps to educate. Some use it for entertainment, some use it for other purposes, right? So just like the YouTube, just like the other video platforms and all of that, you can use podcasts, you can record audios, you can record videos, depending on what you want and the audience that you are serving. These are all emerging ways that people consume information. And then again, you can also leverage on short form video like TikTok, Instagram Reels, where you have some 1 minute to create a very enticing or a very educative or a very entertaining video for people to learn, for people to enjoy and be excited about it. If it's news content, how do you use these platforms like TikTok and Instagram to boost your content generation and to even boost your audience reach? And then finally, there is the interactive content where I mentioned earlier, the virtual reality and all of the other things where you can, usually they are used in gaming. And so when it comes to gaming, for instance, when it comes to sitting behind a machine and operating directly from there with images and all of that, these contents have come to help or to boost some of the ways that we consume information. I hope you are with me, and please note down any questions or any contributions. Once we are done, you can feel free to ask them. And so having understood, having received these emerging technologies, emerging issues, and even the challenges around all of these emerging issues, as journalists, how do we prepare ourselves? How do we face the future? In fact, I am tempted to say, how do we face the now? Because it's already here with us. If you are not prepared to face the future now, to face the technological advancements now, then you may be too late. And so as journalists, what do we do? One of the ways is for us to continuously learn and adapt. What it means is that as a journalist, you should be monitoring industry trends. What are the new trends in technology? What are the new trends in information dissemination? What are the new ways of creating contents? How do I adapt? How do I, bring these tools into my work, and how would they help me to boost my productivity and all of that? And you need to also understand that once you have the edge or you have the desire to use these tools or to leverage these tools, you also need to upgrade yourself, because some of the tools, you need to learn how to use them, and it will require that you upgrade your skills. You need to develop. If you have a team of people you lead, it means you have to train them. They need to be brought up to speed on how to use some of these tools to better improve the work that they are doing, right? And for us, for those of us who are leading organizations or are parts of organizations, one of the ways we can also prepare is for us to create scenarios, different scenarios of the future with the numerous emerging technologies and tools. What could be the possible future that would occur for us? You can create one, you can create 2, 3, 4 possible scenarios in your minds, and it helps you as an organization to prepare, to strategize, to even serve your audience better, right? So that you are not caught in surprise when these new technologies are now here with us, and there is nothing you can do about it. And then finally, if you will be able to do this, then you should be ready to invest in research and technology. For us as journalists, it will mean that we need to invest in even taking courses, short courses on some of these tools, reading more online on some of these tools, how to use them, how to apply them, and all of that. You need to spend, basically, you need to spend your data, your internet course, and all of that, your time to research and learn about these tools and how to use them and how to incorporate them in your work. That is how we can prepare journalists for the future that holds for us. Another critical emerging issue is conflict and security reporting. In Africa, I mean, of course, we are all aware about some of the instability that occur around us. And so as journalists, how do we ensure that we are reporting on these conflicts in a way that do not fuel what's already been done, but rather helps to resolve or helps to tame down this conflict? And so it's something sensitive that we need to address our minds to. And so basically, conflict sensitive reporting is an approach to journalism that aims to cover conflicts in a way that minimizes harm, promotes understanding, and contributes to peace building efforts. So your goal is not to take sides. Your goal is not to fuel what's already been done, the conflicts that's already happening. Your goal is not to write or publish or create content that would incite people against the other, but rather your goal is to build peace. Your goal is to contribute to that process that would help to bring peace in the end. And so basically, conflict reporting involves sensationalism, how you would avoid using sensational language, sensational words, expressions, and all of that, inflammatory language, abusive language, languages that, one group of people would hear and they may not take, they may not understand it, or they may not understand the import of it, and so may create issues for you. We need to avoid all of these sensationalism in our reporting. Again, also, it comes with us humanizing the stories that we report on. You've seen a story, or you've witnessed an issue, a conflict, and you want to report on. How do you ensure that you relate this story to the people or your audience? You relate this story to those who are going to read your story, that they understand, right? They understand where you are coming from and the issues you are putting across. And again, it helps you yourself as a reporter or as a journalist to empathize, and it shows that, yes, you understand the issues. And so when these people also read your news, when they listen to your news, they now have that edge to, relax and go back to their normal mode of peace building and all of that. And then finally, we need to understand that when reporting on conflict, you need to know, again, in fact, it's always important to understand and appreciate your audience, those that you are reporting to, right? At a particular point, who are those who are most likely to read your news? Once you understand that, well, there are different ethnic groups to the story, there are different religious groups, there are different social groups that are involved in this particular issue or conflict, you need to know how to report on it, so that at least you serve everyone's perspective in the news that you are putting out there, and not incite each other. You need to be mindful of the various cultures that exist wherever you find yourself. People understand issues from their own perspective. You also come from another culture, and so your reportage may put across a different understanding, may put across a different, or may create a different perception, right? So whoever is going to read your news may take you wrongly, right? And so always you should be careful some of the sensitive issues or some of the cultural biases within your society or within your country or wherever you are reporting, so that you don't find yourself in an area where you use wrong languages, you use wrong images, or even sound disrespectful, right? You may feel you are not disrespectful, but someone will see your story as offensive and disrespectful. You need to be careful about all these things. Again, you need to know the context in which you are reporting from. What is the history? Do they have any conflict history? Do they have any issues of civil violence, any issues of ethnic violence? You need to understand and know where you are coming from, right? You need to understand the social groups. What is the political atmosphere, the political environment? All these factors helps you to understand how you should report on a conflict, to make good judgments about the situations you find yourself in. And then again, I mentioned this earlier a bit, that you need to be mindful of the kind of images you use. You know, images, just simple images or artworks can incite violence or can make people pick arms against each other. Yes, and so you should be very, very interested in the kind of images you use to represent situations or events or anything that you want to depict that people may misinterpret. We need to be mindful of that as well. Now we want to look at one interesting topic. I'm sure some of us have heard about open government partnership or open governance. And so what is open government partnership? In the year 2011, some countries or some governments came together to form a partnership, of course, led by the US government, and other countries in the came together to form a partnership. And basically, this partnership is one that brings governments together to hold themselves accountable, simply put, right? So governments are coming together to hold themselves accountable when it comes to enhancing transparency, when it comes to serving their citizens well, when it comes to being accountable to the people they serve and all of that. So this partnership involves governments and civil society. At the moment, it includes 75 countries with 104 local governments, right? And of course, it includes 1,000 civil society organizations, of which APPN Africa is one of those organizations in the partnership. And so the partnership basically is a mixture or a creation of both government and civil society. And so in this partnership, all members of this partnership have endorsed a declaration, which is called the Open Government Declaration. And so it is this declaration that members of the partnership are bound to implement some of the initiatives or to undertake some of the initiatives that they have planned, and they have subjected themselves to accountability or assessment, basically. For some of us, our countries may be members of this partnership. Some countries are not members of the partnership in Africa. And so you need to know whether your country is a member of this partnership. You can always Google opengovernmentpartnership.org, and you'd find a platform where you can check whether your government or your country is a member of this partnership, right? And so before a government or a country becomes a member, you need to subscribe to allowing yourself to be assessed on fiscal transparency, on access to information, on public officials' asset disclosure, and citizens' engagement. These are the areas that governments are assessed. Of course, there are always emerging areas that the partnership agrees on, and once they agree on, members also adopt it and they go with it, right? And so once a country is interested, what they need to do is to identify an agency or a ministry that will lead this partnership, or that will lead the implementation of the initiatives that have been agreed or that have been proposed. You submit a letter of intent, it is assessed, and then once you are accepted into the partnership, you now start the process of engagement with stakeholders, including civil society, to now develop what we call the national action plans. So these national action plans are those that countries hold themselves accountable to implement initiatives of transparency or initiatives that enhance transparency, that promotes accountability, enhances civic participation in governance, and all the other things that promotes good governance, basically. And so once we do that, which of course journalists are part of, civil society generally includes journalists. And so in your country, you should know how you can participate in this process. And of course, we'll come to it very soon, how we can make use and contribute to this process. Out of this open government partnership is also one thematic area of open parliament, which of course is an area where APPN Africa or Parliamentary Network Africa, we operate within. And so open parliament basically is that area that encourages transparency, participation, and accountability within parliaments, basically. So the idea is, whilst the general open government partnership or there are other thematic areas looking at the executive branch of government, the open parliament also looks at the legislative arm of government and how they can promote openness in parliament. And openness in parliament or open parliament basically means having access to legislative information. It basically means that the parliament or the country is creating systems and mechanism that allows for public participation. And again, it's creating opportunities for the public to hold their elected representatives accountable or public officials accountable. And that is the only way where citizens are able to trust their governments. There is a very critical role that Parliament plays in open government, right? And these are grouped under 4 areas. The first is for Parliament to take legislative action. Once a country signs up to be part of the partnership, they are obliged to create national action plans, as I said. Yeah. These national action plans, countries have opportunity to do in different ways. One of the ways is that Parliament also includes some plans in the general or national action plan, or Parliament will create its own action plan. Now, taking legislative action as a role of Parliament basically looks at how Parliament can support the government or support the process of implementing the National Action Plan through reviewing laws, through ratifying legislation, and passing laws that opens up governments, basically. Laws that helps to promote transparency, laws that puts public officials on their toes to serve their citizens, and laws that ensures that the public or citizens are fully or actively involved in the work of government, right? Basically, so that is one role that Parliament can play in open government, passing laws, reviewing them, and introducing new ones. Again, Parliament has the mandate to ensure parliamentary oversight. What it means is for Parliament now to hold the government accountable for some of the open government reforms that they've adopted or they've signed up to. Again, I continuously mention the National Action Plan because for countries that are part of the Open Government Partnership, they need to create a National Action Plan. And so Parliament now has the role to ensure that this action plan is implemented to its core as the government has signed up to or as stakeholders have agreed. Again, it is a mandate of Parliament to open up the parliamentary process. Look at your parliament. Do they open up the process? Are they transparent? Do they share information? Do you have access to information? If you do, how easy even are you able to access this information? Are they accountable? Do they meet their constituents? Do they take the voice of their constituents and make sure they reflect in the policies and laws that they pass in Parliament, right? So it is the mandate or the role of Parliament to ensure that Parliament as an institution is also complying with these open government principles, basically. And then finally, Parliament has to now create opportunities for dialogue, opportunities where citizens can interact with their MPs, where civil society can engage members of Parliament, where media can report from Parliament and even engage citizens and MPs on subject matters that are of interest to them. So here we want to look at what role we can play as journalists in open government. One, we have the role of monitoring these commitments that governments have adopted or governments have signed up to. Again, it means you need to understand even the National Action Plan creation process. What are the efforts that go into this process so that as a journalist, you are able to monitor whether governments or whether the stakeholders are implementing or not. Once you have, you get hold of your national action plan, your country's national action plan, now you can be monitoring and tracking the implementation. And so your role now is for you to understand how the implementation would be done and what you can do to bring attention on what is being done or what is not being done, right? And so the second point of you assessing the progress of work that has been done. And of course, as journalists, we can always publish stories, we can always report on what is going right and what is going wrong. Again, it means that you need to have that capacity to investigate. You need to investigate the cases of corruption, right? You need to investigate the issues of accountability, misuse of public resources. These are areas that we should be interested in that enhances open governance. And so as journalists, again, we need to also understand these issues. Again, as journalists, we need to promote citizens' engagement. How do we do this? By ensuring that we are providing the vital information that citizens require or need to know about open government, right? So once the country is implementing a plan, an action plan, then what are the information that citizens need to be aware of? What are the commitments? What are the plans in the action plan? What are the ways that governments set for themselves to implement? We need to tease these information out and share to the public, because you all agree that it is from these information that citizens receive that they are able to make informed decisions. It's able to help them in the discourse, in their daily discourse, and it's able to help them to hold the government accountable. So it's something that we need to be very mindful of. Again, as journalists, we always have that that mandate to ensure that laws that are not passed, that are affecting our work, that are limiting our access to information, we need to advocate for these laws to be passed, right? For some countries, journalists have been heavily involved in this process. Civil society have also involved. So you need to look at your country, whether these laws exist in your country. If they do not, how do you, as a journalist, or how do you, as a journalist group, ensure that government comes to terms with introducing or passing some of these laws? Of course, it helps in granting citizens access to information. It comes together pushing for the adoption and inclusion of some laws that will throw more light on the dealings of governments, right? Some laws that will make it easy for you to access government information, policies and all of that. And these are all principles of open government. So once your country has signed up to these principles, it means as a journalist, you need to be tracking and monitoring them and reporting and ensuring that they are held accountable. We can also partner with civil society. Civil society do a lot of work with government on issues of open governance. And so we can always tag along with civil societies that are interested in transparency, accountability, and all the other issues or thematic areas, and help them to trumpet some of the very critical issues that we need to drum home for citizens to know, for governments to know, and keep them on their toes. And then again, whilst we are able to showcase even the challenges, we also sometimes need to showcase or highlight some of the very good initiatives or some of the success stories of government, how government has been successful in developing a transparency platform or a tool or a system that helps citizens to easily access information or participate in governance. We need to highlight some of these initiatives for others to also learn. And once we identify weaknesses in the implementation of these principles or reforms, we can also highlight them. Let's look at the final emerging issue, which is climate change. We are all aware of the emerging debates around climate change, the impact of climate change, and how we need to ensure or contribute to mitigating the impact of climate change. Of course, there is always the debate about to what extent Africa contributes to climate change and who should even be held accountable for these repercussions or these damages and all of that. Of course, as journalists also, it is an area that we need to understand, and we need to even know the debates that is ongoing, so that if you are interested in reporting on these issues, these are issues of science. These are issues of science, and science comes with facts. Science comes with facts. And so one of the things we can do as journalists to be sure to be able to report effectively on climate is to always understand the issues, always understand the scientific principles behind climate change, the concept of greenhouse emissions, rising temperatures, and all of that. A lot of terms that are being used within this ecosystem, and so we need to understand them and know how we can use them. It goes beyond just reporting. It goes beyond just writing. You need to understand the implication of the terms and the concepts that you are using in your context. Again, I mentioned that these issues deal with facts and figures. So whatever figures you are reporting, whatever you are reporting or putting out there, you need to be sure you are verifying the information you have, and you need to be sure that it's coming from a credible source. If indeed you want to maintain your credibility as a journalist, you need to be ensured that issues of climate change are coming from sources that are credible, and you can hold on to and defend anytime you are called upon to defend. And when reporting on climate change issues, this can be, and it's something that myself I've recognized, that it becomes difficult for people to easily understand the impact of climate change on their daily lives and all the other things, So as journalists, we need to always step this information down. We need to step the climate change information down, tell stories, humanize the information that we are putting out there for people to easily connect to, for people to easily relate to. Once people are able to easily relate to our stories, they understand the issues. Because if you tell someone that, someone in the village, my village, that you do not use firewood or do not use charcoal again, right? That is their only means of survival. how do you then explain to them that, well, because of this, because of the climate, because of this, you should not use? They need to understand. So you need to explain to the extent that they believe that indeed this is the impact of what you are talking about. And then as journalists, we should always associate ourselves with experts, scientists, researchers, so that we understand the issues that are coming up and we're able to report on some of these issues. Of course, climate change also comes with its own policies and its own agreements and all of that. How do we track? How do we monitor? How do we learn and understand these agreements before we can even report on them? And so this is where we end. Basically, we have been going through some of the emerging issues that are coming up. Of course, there are lots of emerging issues, but these are those that I think for us as journalists, we need to address our minds to issues of technology, issues of, artificial intelligence, issues of open governments, issues of conflict reporting, issues of climate change. These are issues that immediately comes to mind. And so for us as journalists, we need to understand them and know how we can apply ourselves when it comes to reporting on them and when it comes to even holding government officials accountable to promote democratic governance. And so thank you very much. At this point, if there are any questions, if there are any comments, contributions, please feel free to put them up, and then we can now move into our groups to have this discussion where we want to now identify innovative approaches that as a journalist or as media we can use to engage the Pan-African Parliament. Or if you like, you can even put it in context of your own national parliament. How can you derive, or how can you develop, what approaches do you want to use to engage your parliament on some of these issues, basically? Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, please do well to put them up.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. We are not done yet, but if at this point you have any questions, you can ask. He has discussed a lot of things with us, and we've been following for some time now. So if you have any questions, please bring them out so that we can all discuss and come to a conclusion. So you can raise your hand so that we will just call you, or you can open your microphone and then join the discussion. All right, Nelly, you can unmute and then ask your question.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It's quite illuminating on emerging issues. I just wanted to, okay, I have a concern, and this relates to perhaps the use of AI in our work, and when we regard this with the ethical considerations, and also, okay, like for instance, can AI be useful in terms of helping us analyze a bill or a particular legislation, or can we use AI to be able to decode the bill and give a story angle? Is that ethical? Thank you.
All right, so Ben, if you can respond to.
Thank you very much. Is it Nelly, right? If I got it right. Yeah, so thank you very much for the question. You know, AI has a lot of potential to do a lot of things, really. In fact, some of the things unimaginable, unbelievable that AI can do. In fact, at the moment, you are even able to use AI to create websites. You are able to use AI to do a lot of analysis, basically. And it's just marvelous what AI can do. So yes, AI can do all the things that you mentioned. AI can analyze a bill. AI can analyze policies. AI can analyze, let's use the basic AI that is very common or very popular, GPT, right? Chat GPT. It can basically do a lot of things for you. It can analyze whatever you ask it to do for you, of course, depending on the level you are using or the kind of version you are using. It helps you to do a lot of things you can do within a small space of time. But the challenge, however, of course, is the ethical issues, which I've mentioned, or I mentioned earlier, the ethical issues of whether I mean the content you are using, right? The ethical issues of whether you can publish in whole what you've received from AI. And that is why I mentioned that for us, AI has come to help us in doing our work. It has not come to substitute or come to take over what we're already doing. It's only a tool to help us. And so once we are welcoming the use of AI, we also need to be very careful of how we use it. So yes, for instance, you can use AI to analyze a bill, analyze a law, but are you taking everything that the AI is churning out for you? No. You need to now contextualize it. You need to now situate it in the context in which you are working, right? And sometimes you need to even basically rewrite what AI has done for you. So it only helps you to kind of brainstorm. It helps you to dig deeper into issues. It helps you to discover issues that you may find some challenges on discovering. But again, you have to sit down and analyze yourself, review yourself, and be sure that the final information you are putting out there is worth it. It's not something that someone reads and looks as if you just copied or gives different understanding from what your intention is supposed to. So yes, AI can do a lot of things, basically. And I wouldn't encourage any of us to think that there are extent to which AI can go, and it's just crazy, excuse my words. It's just crazy. AI can do a lot of things that are even unimaginable. So yes, that would be my answer.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. I can also see Elizabeth's hand up. Elizabeth, you can also unmute and ask your question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Benjamin. Good afternoon, colleagues. So I joined the meeting quite early, but at some point I was automatically locked out, and I will appeal that if Mr. Benjamin can just do a summary of this whole topic before we go into the breakaway. If not, I'm completely lost. It took another time again for me to be able to gain access. So I lost almost everything. I don't even know what's the whole lecture apart from what I've earlier read. If you can just help give a summary, even if it's 1 minute or less than that, for me to just understand what the whole topic today is. Thank you very much. I will appreciate.
All right. I would have ruled that one out because we're going to make the video available to you, Elizabeth. But if Ben minds or is not bothered, and he can capture that within the next 2 minutes, then fine. But if not, then maybe the recommendation I will give is that we'll make the video available to you, and then you can cut back on all the things that has been discussed so far. So Ben, what's the direction?
Yes, so Elizabeth, basically what we've been discussing, or what I've been talking about, is the emerging issues that for us as journalists, we need to understand or appreciate, and to be able to know how we can build ourselves on these issues, and how we can even understand them and know the role we can play in all of them. And so we've been looking at emerging issues. We've been looking at the emerging technologies, which of course AI is one, and all the other issues, all the other technologies that can come up. We've been looking at conflict reporting. We've been looking at open parliament, open government partnership. We've been looking at climate change. So these are the issues and topics that you can always read around them, just for you to keep yourself abreast. And for us as journalists, the most important thing is to be up to speed on these trends, these new trends in technological advancements, and these issues that we need to know, and know how to report on them, how to hold our governments accountable if they are the tools. How do we incorporate the tools in the work that we do? Basically, that is what I've been saying, and that is what we've been doing for the while.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I don't see any hands up, so I guess the presentation has gone down well with all of us. It's now time for us to go into our breakout session. We are going to have two groups at the breakout session, and we will go and do the discussion. It was on the screen now. I think Ben has pulled it down. So Ben, if you don't mind, let the breakout. Yeah. Okay. So okay, he's putting it back on. So what we are going to discuss at the breakout session is that Ben, I think I saw you said 3 strategic. Ben, if you could help me, the topic what we are going to discuss. Having understood the emerging issues, identify and discuss 3 innovative approaches the media can engage the Pan-African Parliament for each of the issues. Justify your reasons for each approach. I think this is clear. So let's write it down. Let's note it down. Having understood the emerging issues, identify and discuss 3 innovative approaches the media can engage the Pan-African Parliament on for each of the issues. Justify your reasons for each approach. So we are setting up the groups now, and then we'll go into that discussion. We are having only 2 groups. We're going into that discussion, and then after that, we regroup here for we are spending 20 minutes. It's now 1:21. So by 1:40 thereabout, we should be done with our discussion. So we'll meet you at the other side. Thank you. All right, welcome to the training. After that breakout session, we are so grateful that you had a discussion, and we are sure that we are going to have all of you report what you discuss at the other side. So please, Ben, take it over and let's complete this quickly and then move on. Thank you.
Yeah, so we can take first group, then after that we can go with second group, or if anyone who is ready to go, he can go. So let's take the first group, group 1. Let's get what you discuss and what you have for us, and then if there are any comments or questions, we can have them.
I'm presenting for group 2, and the question was the 3 innovative approaches the media can engage the Pan-African Parliament, and we were to justify each of the reasons. And as a group, we agreed that it is important to for an effective engagement for us to understand the political context and the political scenarios. And so we felt that by doing this, we also must segment our audience such that we use a medium that to communicate deliberations of the Pan-African Parliament in a manner that reaches all demographics. And there was a suggestion that one approach could be use of social media, website and newsletter, and TV and radio. And the justification for newsletter is that it has a wider circulation. And this we can also engage with the members of the Pan-African Parliament, perhaps members of the committee in relation to an issue that we seek. And this we can do by emailing the individual members and in relation to perhaps an issue that we are seeking, and then thereafter communicate it on the platforms targeting different audience. Perhaps if it's the younger generation, we can use short videos like TikTok. If it is the other demographics, we can use radio and TV, the older generation. And if it is perhaps the millennials, there's IG and Facebook and even YouTube to stream activities. We agree with the into agreement to stream part of these deliberations live. And the other approach was to identify, to be in touch with what is happening, so that we know if there are issues that are concerning our country. We work closely with the committees so that we are able to get that information and publish it and set the agenda in our countries. And this will be able to ensure that respective countries that are represented in that parliament are abreast of what is happening, and they're aware that their issues are being canvassed at that particular parliament, and this will create more ownership amongst the people. We were time barred, and we managed to only address those 2 issues. Back to you.
Okay, Nelly, thank you very much. So, Ben, how do we go about it? Are you going to help us?
I mean, thank you very much, Nelly, for sharing from group 2. I think, yes, it's a good approach, and I like the fact that you will segment and know your audience, or know at least groups of people you are going to engage with, and which content or which medium you'd use to engage them, and all of that on these issues that you may select. So yes, I think those are good and fantastic contributions. Yeah, we can go to the next group if there are no comments or questions.
Okay, since there are no questions, do we have Maru now? Maru, are you ready? Okay, I think group 1 is not ready. Maru is not ready. Is there anybody in group 1 that wants to cap this for us, so that Ben will wrap up and then we'll call it a day? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ben, can you hear me? I'm
Yes, I
speaking.
can hear you, Clement.
Oh, okay. So then, Ben, please just wrap it up for us, and then we can call it a day.
Okay, so thank you all very much for the contributions and staying true. Basically, I mean, the takeaway would be for me as journalists, what are the issues or the topics or the new trends that I need to be informed about, I need to keep myself updated on, because these issues improves your understanding on some of the current things, the current policy decisions, and some of even issues related to governance in your various countries, in the parliament and all of that. And you are only able to contribute to these discussions when you understand the issues and you appreciate them, not just about reporting, but even how you can analyze them, how you can critically analyze them to, bring out solutions and all of that as journalists. So yes, basically for me, it is for us all to encourage ourselves to always learn how to use these new tools to help our work, not to substitute them with what we are doing, but rather just to help us to be more productive, to bring out quality content and all of that. So thank you very much for listening through this presentation. Clement.
Thank you very much, Ben, for being our presenter today. And this is the second time we've had you, and we are so impressed with what you have done with us. And I must say thank you to all of you for joining us throughout these 6 weeks that we have been learning and teaching each other, and knowing about each other. We are coming from different countries, and we have come here as a family for these 6 weeks. It has been interesting. And this is where we draw the curtain on this particular training. There are more things that we are going to be doing going forward, but today is the time that we draw the curtain. We are going to give more information on the platform on which we are. We're going to communicate with you. We're going to have certificates. We're going to do evaluation of the times and the people that joined, and we're going to do that evaluation, and people will get their certificates. So we have noticed the participation of each and every one of you, and this is the beginning. Some of you have really endeared yourself to knowledge. Some of you have shown us what you can do. Some of you qualify to be resource persons in our other engagements, in other occasions. So we have noted you. We'll be contacting some of you to do facilitation in some of our programs. We'll be communicating some very important information to you on the platform, and we want to say once again thank you for being part of the program. You certainly hear from us. So my name is Clement Sena Akolo. I'm the communication officer for Parliamentary Network Africa, together with my colleague Gilbert Bokete Boifio.